We ask that you please keep your group together, keep up with the car in front of you, and fill in all the available space. It is not necessary to form a single file line. If you are traveling with a stroller, please have children and animals unloaded before you.
Permanezcan sentados y mantengan las manos, brazos, pies y piernas dentro del vehículo. Yo pido a sus niños. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kilimanjaro Spa. In order to avoid actual and natural conflict,
Sanjay Sana Warden. Jumbo friends, my name is Maggie. I'm a your safari guide out here on the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. I'm all the way up here in the front and I've got a couple safety reminders for you. Please keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the truck at all times, and please do remain fully seated during the entire time I am driving it. There are some real potholes out there, and I really did grow up in Pennsylvania, so I am very familiar with potholes. If anything falls out of the truck, I'm unable to stop and retrieve it, and I cannot guarantee its condition if it is returned to you. We're starting with antelopes that live in the forest. Both the males and females have horns, and they have thin white stripes on their backs. Those stripes mimic sunbeams, which helps them blend in with the brush of the forest. Over on the right, you can see the very stripy legs of an okapi. Those stripy legs might make you think that the okapi is related to the zebra. However, it is the only living relative of the giraffe. That's going to be most evident in its skull shape and its prehensile tongue. Prehensile means finger-like. Like many animals in the forest, okapis are incredibly shy and reclusive. They weren't discovered by Western scientists until 1901. Have it yellow. We've now left the Little Ituri Forest and entered the Safi River Valley. Here in the Safi River Valley, we can find some semi-aquatic animals. Semi-aquatic does mean that these animals are colonial nesters. They'll nest in groups anywhere from 20 to 500 birds. They get their name from those pink feathers under their wings and on their backs, and during their mating season, that pink color will grow darker and spread onto their face and beaks. There's a group of Nile hippopotamus on the left-hand side. Hippopotamus is a Latin word that means river horse, because while hippos can swim, they do prefer to walk or run along the bottom. Into the river, you might be able to see one of the big predators, the Nile crocodile. Nile crocodiles can be 16 to 20 feet long. That is about as long as a giraffe is tall. They regulate their body temperature by opening their mouths, very similarly to how a dog will pant. They can travel over. Animals in the savannah rely on speed, herding, and agility to protect themselves. As we head into the savannah, you might catch a glimpse of some familiar faces. The savannah is home to animals such as zebras, giraffes, elephants, and rhinos. I do see some animals way off in the distance, but we'll get a little bit closer before we start talking about them. Those are African painted dogs. African painted dogs get their name from their coat pattern. Please do not lift up your children. They get their name from their coat pattern, which looks a lot like paint splatters. They may look like hyenas, but they're actually part of the canid family, which makes their closest relatives wolves or domesticated dogs. Back by the bushes of dominance. We're coming up onto a group of Maasai giraffes, and we know that they are Maasai giraffes because their spots are very jagged and non-uniformed. Giraffes are the tallest land animal. They can be 16 to 20 feet tall. And a group of giraffes is called a tower. Giraffes have a gestational period of around 15 months, and at birth a baby giraffe will be. They migrate 500 to 1,000 miles each year in groups of up to 1.5 million, and that's called the Great Migration. During that Great Migration, wildebeest will kick up a cloud of dust so big. And we know that these are Hartman's mountain zebras because those lovely black and white stripes don't reach their bellies. Please do not lift up your children. In maintaining the savanna as a grassland by limiting the amount of trees that have the ability to grow here. Little ones need to be fully seated. Another sign we've made our way into some elephant country. There are 2 African elephants over on the right hand side. And we know that those are African elephants. Well, because we are in Africa, are heavily threatened by habitat loss due to the mining of a mineral called coltan. Coltan is a shiny. Elephants are very handy with their trunks. They'll use their trunks to do things such as eat and drink, as well as fling water, mud, and dirt onto themselves to cool off and to protect their skin. There's a group of greater flamingos on the left-hand side. Greater flamingos are called greater flamingos not because they're better than any other type of flamingo, but because they are physically larger. Flamingos are hatched gray, and they gain their pink color from a substance called beta-carotene in their diet. Beta-carotene is also providing some shade and shelter. Now, you're not always guaranteed to see anything up on the Kopi rocks, as they do absorb sunlight. So they can get very, very warm on very sunny days, but it never hurts to take a look. Rhino. There are a group of white rhinos over on the right-hand side. White rhinos are very social animals. They live in groups. A group of white rhinos is called a crash and will consist of about 10 to 15 rhinos. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing anything up on those Kopi rocks at the moment. Rich. White rhino is a bit of a misnomer, as white rhinos get their name from a mistranslation of an Afrikaans word white, which means wide because they have a very wide mouth. Because of that wide mouth, their diet will consist mainly of grass and hay. They are grazers. There are 2 ostriches on the right-hand side, as well as a nest of ostrich eggs up ahead. Ostriches are large, flightless birds. However, they can run up to 40 miles per hour, which does make them the fastest thing on 2 legs. Despite being flightless, ostriches do have wings. Those wings are used for balance as well as change where the warden's post is, and it does look like the warden's goats are out. These are Nigerian dwarf goats, and despite their small size, they are fully grown. Goats enjoy climbing. They have a symbiotic relationship with humans, which means it is mutually beneficial. Goats provide us with sweet and nutritious milk, and farmers provide goats with homes and health care. As we are getting past the warden's post, this is marking the beginning of the end of our safari. We saw a lot of animals out there, and hopefully you listened to me talk about them, because I did talk a lot. Unfortunately, many of these animals are being threatened with endangerment or are already endangered, which means now we get to talk about my favorite topic, conservation. No matter who you are or where you live, you can take part in conservation. There was recently some big and exciting news within the conservation world. According to the IUCN, it's important to remember that conservation begins with education. So do some research into some of the animals we saw out on the reserve or some that live in your local areas and find out how you